Oh, good afternoon. Sorry, I think I lost the connection there. I'm not sure if that initial video is going to go live, but I'm going to continue talking about why are you so surprised? And the issue, the discussion, the topic is all about how our youth are, their baseline knowledge is so much higher than ours. Their acceptance of certain physical elements, physical capabilities. David, thanks for checking back in. Um, is is such that as parents we should be expecting them to learn and apply these new skills, these new learned capabilities. Their baseline is much higher than ours coming up. And an example, I was just going through an example with Oprah Winfrey and Maya Angelou having a conversation. And Oprah Winfrey said to Maya Angelou that her greatest legacy is being able to give these children in, I believe it was Kenya, her school in Kenya, an opportunity to learn, an opportunity to have freedom of thought, to be able to envision their own interests, work on those interests, those passions, and then begin to manifest and see those things blossom. And Maya Angelou thought for a moment and responded with, "You have no idea what your legacy is." Because think about it. Do we really know what those minds will create so that their own people can be, their own people's lives and situations can be improved? How will that then manifest into other nationalities, other people, as they move across the world and they share their passion, their energy, their resolve, their commitment, their focus on getting things done? I know even at my age, I am touched by them because it means that they came from a much more desperate situation than I, and look what they're doing with it. Once an opportunity is presented, once a door is opened. So when we talk about why you're always surprised, and you shouldn't be surprised at what some of the youth are capable of doing, it's because we have already given them that baseline. Even in the ways, even in ways that perhaps we were trying to hold them back, many of them who are resolved, who are resilient, who will push back and say, no, this is what I want to accomplish. That is a result of their challenges. And those that excel and build things and be able to develop and create things that can help other people, that's what we as a species should be about. That's elevating the species. That's the humanity of what we're capable of doing. And if we keep our mind focused on that, no matter what age, I've said before, your brain doesn't know how old it is. Stop telling your mind that you're old. Because someone who is very young and has a very short lifespan can impact people and others, affect them, just as someone who is 80, 90, or 100 years old and still goes to work. There's a common thread, there's a common denominator, if you will. And we can all learn that at different phases that we go through life. Whether, again, I'm just going to kind of go over a few things I said before because I'm not sure if that first part of the video will be captured. Think of theology. At one time, only certain people in their towns, in their village, and even in the country were allowed to be educated in the monasteries. So too with social access to resources, right? We all know that at one time or another, one nationality or another nationality was excluded or accepted into the so-called club, the preferred club. Well, now with technology, with the freedom of having free college education, the baseline of all people will be improved. Because knowledge will come, opportunities will be presented, goods and services, benefits derived will come from a more diverse pool. And with platforms such as crowdfunding, for example, you can have highly targeted groups of communities, of people that have a similar need or interest fund, get that product or service off the ground. Instead of having to have all this heavy, laborious expenditures and very contrived legal and managerial procedures to get a product to market, to get a service exposed in the marketplace to those that need it. So this technology is not about saying, well, it's going to replace you. It should replace you. If you're not elevating yourself, if you're not educating yourself, if you're not looking for those new opportunities, then the mind itself has to evolve. The capability, what you believe you can do, has to mature. And just as when we talked about survival of the fittest, which is actually about birds, by the way, it's nothing to do with humans. Survival of the fittest is about birds. And if you think about it, you look outside your window. We have lots of geese. We have cardinals, some blue jays, some Bostons come through every now and again, beautiful yellow necks. We have some herring come flying in, absolutely gorgeous. They don't have ombudsmen to protect them from elements in the wild. They don't have a home to go into. They have to build it themselves every season. They don't have advocacy groups. They have to survive by being in tune with their environment. I think that is an aspect of not being surprised at what happens if you don't pay attention to your environment, to your surroundings, to things that can impact you, right? Our safety, our higher thinking, our self-actualization, Maslow's law, right? That's really what being in tune with your society is all about. So when we talk about managing change, we have to be cognizant of that. We have to then drive that message to our younger members of our society and not be so ambivalent that things will work out, that some agency, some authority, some other person's responsibility for your own care, my care, is at hand. Understanding those elements, moving out with a sense of purpose, giving back so that others, your legacy can be given to others and that they can take it a step further, that's elevating the species. That's understanding that we align our interests with those of others, even though the full realization may not be recognized. You may die and someone else may take the advantage. Just as with, I believe the gentleman's name is Bhikkhu in Australia. He's an Aborigine. I apologize, that's not the correct term. He's indigenous to Australia. And only in 98, he managed to get rights for the indigenous population of Australia to own their own land. He died a year or two just before that. So his efforts, his purpose, his intent was to elevate his people so that they could have the rights to their own land that they had for thousands of years before Westerners came there. So there is an ebb and flow. There is a challenge to make that happen because there are forces out here that don't want people to be educated. They don't want people to understand the legacy from where they come. They don't want people to realize that anything that's legislated can be taken away. Being aware of that. When you go into meetings and you're talking to people, building that rapport allows you then to get into those conversations that will consider those elements that before you might not even pay any attention to and still wonder why. Wow, wait a minute, why didn't they vote in my favor? Why didn't they support my position? You see, it's all connected. It's all connected. If you don't think of the other person's concerns, then why should they support or vote in your favor? So when we think about not being surprised, and some years ago we had a slogan in the house: "There's no such thing as a victim unless someone, of course, comes up and hits you in the head or shoots you." The slogan means our thinking behind that is: if you're not aware, if you don't take the time to be aware of your environment, right? Governance, legislation, the elements of people around you, right? the temperance that people exhibit on a daily basis. If you're not aware of that, if you want to be ignorant of that, then you're going to be surprised at what happens at any time, whether it's going for coffee at a local store, to going to court to resolve an issue, to looking for a promotion. It's all about understanding and not being surprised because you're in tune. And I'm not just talking about watching the news, because that's really a waste of time. It really is. It's so annoying. And I'm including the BBC. It's so negative. But rather going into those communities that you wish to work in, go into those environments that you find you have an interest in, and finding firsthand. There are all kinds of boys and girls clubs, fraternities, sororities, different age groups. And even within those different age groups, they rely on other populations, other age groups that support them. You'll be amazed at the conversation you can have, the connectivity that's generated when you open your mouth and have an intent of, let's have an open conversation. So I just want to finish up today's discussion with that. I apologize. My first half was somehow disrupted. I don't know if I'll be able to get that back. The conversation, the theme of today was all about not being surprised at how our youth are able to create things, because their baseline of knowledge is much higher than their adults and their parents. And so they take things not just for granted, but rather they ask, why not? Why can't I create something? And not always languish in all the woe and negativity that perhaps many of us as older parents and older guardians have grown up with. They don't want that. They want the freedom to create. And that's what I think is absolutely crucial, whether it's artificial intelligence, whether it's apps for these phones, whether it's items for the medical world. It's all about elevating the species. Our expectations, as the book is, classic book, Great Expectations, what we anticipate and expect, we will create, we will make way for. So thanks again for checking in. This is Ronald Allen, Managing Change through Effective Communications. Today's session is being somewhat interrupted by seemingly another technical glitch. But of course, you know where to find me at ronaldmallen.com. And of course, on YouTube with our little channel. We're building slowly but surely. You have a great evening. Take care.